I was in the doctor's waiting area when my cell phone buzzed. My only child, Angela, was calling. Her tone seemed odd, almost icy, as she stated, "Mother, we're leaving for Europe tomorrow. I've sold your beach house and your vehicle. We required the funds. Goodbye." Then she simply ended the call. 45 years spent raising her, giving everything for her, and she tossed me aside like trash. But I inhaled deeply and grinned, for there was a detail my beloved daughter was unaware of. My name is Antonia Brooks. I am 71 years old, and until that instant, I believed I understood my child. I had been widowed 6 months prior. My husband, Robert, had died from a sudden heart attack during our breakfast, just like every morning for 45 years. That day, he had brought me coffee with cream and a slice of toast. As usual, he had pressed his lips to my forehead and whispered, "Good morning, my darling." Those were his final words to me. Since that day, Angela had been more involved in my life, or so I had imagined. She visited 3 times each week. She assisted with the funeral details and came with me to the market. She even proposed I visit a physician for a full examination. "Mother, you must look after yourself better now that you're by yourself," she would say, with that smile I mistook for affection. Now I realized it was merely for her own benefit. The beach house had been our refuge for decades. Robert and I purchased it when Angela turned 15 through immense effort and sacrifice. Each summer we traveled there, creating memories, marking birthdays and holidays. Angela would bring her boyfriends, and later, her spouse, Edward. I prepared meals for all, cleaned and handled the laundry. It was our family ritual. I never imagined she would view it as mere currency. And the automobile, that aged Ford pickup Robert maintained like his own son. He would clean it each Sunday, change the oil without fail, and always position it in the same shaded spot. Angela understood what that truck represented to me. It was the final piece of him I possessed. His smell remained on the seats. After she hung up, I remained seated on that unpleasant green plastic chair, surrounded by other ill people. And for the first time in months, I did not weep. Something peculiar stirred within me, a serenity I hadn't experienced since Robert's passing. Because in that moment, I recalled something I had entirely forgotten. 3 days before his death, Robert had given me a manila envelope. "Antonia, place this in your dresser drawer. If anything should happen to me, open it after some time, but only when you feel prepared." I had stored it away without much consideration. After the funeral, consumed by sorrow and arrangements, I simply forgot. But it was there, awaiting me at home. The nurse summoned me into the office. The doctor checked me over and stated I was healthy for my age, that I simply needed more rest and a better diet. I nodded and smiled, but my thoughts were elsewhere. I was thinking of that envelope, of the chill in Angela's words, and how Edward was likely behind it all. He had never cared for me. He always saw me as a burden. I left the office and walked slowly to the bus stop. I no longer had a car, according to Angela. But as I waited, I couldn't help but smile. There was something almost poetic about it all. My daughter believed she had left me with nothing. But what she didn't realize was that Robert, my dear Robert, had always been a man who thought ahead. The bus came, and I took a window seat. I watched the city pass by. The homes, the shops, people hurrying everywhere, all with their own sorrows, their own hidden truths. I had my own as well, and I was on the verge of uncovering them. When I reached home, I went directly to my room. I opened the dresser drawer, and there was the manila envelope right where I had left it. My hands shook a little as I lifted it. I could feel several papers inside. Robert had written my name on the front in his precise penmanship. I sat on the bed we had shared for so many years and took a deep breath. Outside, dusk was falling, and the house was filling with those familiar shadows that no longer frightened me. I opened the envelope slowly, as if untying a birthday present. What I discovered inside would alter everything. What I found in that envelope stole my breath. There were legal papers, titles, bank statements, and a letter written by Robert. My eyes welled up reading his familiar script. My dearest Antonia, if you are reading this, it means I am gone. Forgive me for not telling you everything while I lived, but I wished to shield you from worry. Over the years, I invested our savings in real estate and ventures. We don't only own the beach house, we possess 6 other properties, including the apartment building where Angela and Edward reside. We also hold stock in 3 companies worth more than you can fathom. You are wealthy, my love. You always were, but now it is official, too. My hands trembled as I examined the documents. There were deeds for houses in various city areas, a downtown condo, a small motel on the coast, and indeed the 20-story building where my daughter lived. Robert had been the silent owner for the past decade, but had placed everything under a company I didn't know. And according to the papers, I was the sole owner of that company. There were also bank records for accounts I never knew existed, with sums that seemed impossible. Robert had been a bus driver for 40 years, but clearly he had also been a brilliant investor. Every cent we saved, every sacrifice we made, he had multiplied in silence, and I never had a clue. In the letter, Robert explained he had kept it secret because he didn't want me to fret over money or for Angela to learn our true financial state. You know our daughter, Antonia. If she knew we had such wealth, her behavior would change. I want her to love us for who we are, not what we possess. The irony, our daughter had discarded us thinking we had nothing, when in truth, we had everything. That night, I couldn't sleep. I wandered the house, touching the old furniture and the trinkets Angela had always criticized as old-fashioned. I looked at the family pictures on the wall, especially one of her at age 5, sitting on Robert's knee and laughing. Where had that sweet little girl gone? When had she become so cold, so manipulative? The next day, early, the phone rang. It was Angela again. Her voice sounded different, softer, but I had learned to be cautious of such tonal shifts. "Mom, how are you? I wanted to tell you we transferred the money from the house and car. We put your portion into your account. It isn't much, but it will help you for a few months while you find a smaller place." "My portion?" I asked, keeping my tone even. "Yes, Mom, we obviously wouldn't leave you with nothing. We gave you 30%. That's fair, right? We need the money for our investment in Europe. Edward has an amazing opportunity there. 30% of my own belongings. How generous. I see. Sweetheart, and when do you leave?" "This afternoon. Our bags are packed. We'll be away for at least 6 months, perhaps longer if the business does well. But don't worry, Mom. When we return, we'll help you find a small apartment, something suitable for your needs." Suitable for my needs, as if she understood what my needs were. "All right, Angela, have a safe trip." "Oh, Mom, I knew you'd understand. You've always been so kind. We love you so much." And she hung up. I stood there with the phone in my hand, and for the first time in months, I laughed. I laughed as I hadn't since Robert died. The situation was so ridiculous. It was comical. My daughter had stolen from me, evicted me from my own home, spoken to me with unbearable condescension, all to finance a European trip that would likely fail. But what pained me most wasn't the money. It was the ease with which she had disposed of me. 45 years of my life dedicated to her, of sacrifice, of unconditional love, and she had erased me with a 2-minute call. That was the true injury. I checked my bank account online. Sure enough, they had deposited a sum that probably seemed generous to them, but to me was an insult. They had sold the beach house for far less than its value, likely because they needed quick cash, and they had sold Robert's truck for a pittance. That afternoon, from my window, I watched Angela and Edward load their luggage into a taxi. He carried 2 enormous suitcases. She had a very expensive-looking carry-on. I watched them laugh, kiss, and make plans. They looked like 2 excited teenagers on an adventure. They never glanced toward my window, never said goodbye. When the taxi drove off, I sat in the kitchen with tea and Robert's documents spread on the table. I needed to make decisions. I could call a lawyer, reclaim my properties, and take back everything they had stolen. But something told me there was a better way to handle this, a more instructive way. I called Mr. Peterson, the lawyer who had managed Robert's affairs. He had been at the funeral, offered his condolences, and told me to call if I ever needed anything. Well, now I needed him. Mrs. Brooks, it's good to hear from you. How are you? I'm well, Mr. Peterson. I need to see you urgently. I found some documents from Robert that I don't fully comprehend. Of course. You can come to my office tomorrow morning. I'll be there. That night, for the first time in months, I slept soundly. I dreamed of Robert. He was in his favorite chair reading the paper, just like every morning. And when he saw me, he smiled and said, "It's about time, my love. It's about time you stood up for yourself." I woke with a strange sensation. It wasn't quite happiness, but it wasn't the sadness I had felt for so long either. It was something like resolve. For the first time since Robert's death, I had a clear purpose. I was going to reclaim what was mine, but not in the way Angela expected. The next morning, I dressed more carefully than usual. I put on my wine-colored dress, the one Robert always said looked elegant. I fixed my hair and applied a little makeup, and when I looked in the mirror, I saw a woman I hadn't seen in a long time. I saw a strong woman. Mr. Peterson's office was downtown. It was an older but refined building with marble floors and large windows. He greeted me with a warm smile, but when I showed him the documents, his expression changed completely. "Mrs. Brooks, this is much more than I imagined. Robert was an exceptionally clever man. Look, according to these, you are the owner of—" "I know, Mr. Peterson. I've already reviewed them. What I need to know is what I can do legally." Mr. Peterson explained that everything was in order, the documents were valid, and I was the legal owner of all those properties. He also confirmed something I had suspected. The sale of the beach house was illegal because Angela had no right to sell it. We can reclaim the house immediately, Mrs. Brooks, and we can also pursue legal action against your daughter for fraud. No, Mr. Peterson, I don't want legal action. I want to do this differently. I want everything to stay secret for now. Can you assist me? He looked at me curiously, but he nodded. Of course, You are my client. What do you require? I need you to discreetly get the beach house back, do what's needed to void that fraudulent sale, and I need you to help me gain actual control of all my properties, especially the building where my daughter lives. I understand. It will be a process taking a few weeks, but it's entirely possible. Perfect. And Mr. Peterson, no one can know I am behind this, at least for now. When I left his office, I felt as if I had awoken from a very long dream. I walked through the downtown streets, watching the people, the buildings, the life continuing as normal. But for me, everything had changed. I had a plan. The following weeks were the strangest of my life. Officially, I was a poor widow abandoned by her daughter. But secretly, I was a wealthy woman quietly orchestrating the recovery of my assets. Mr. Peterson worked efficiently and called me every few days with updates on the legal progress. I decided to stay in my house for the time being. It was mine, after all, though Angela probably expected me to move into a single room. Each morning I woke, ate breakfast at the same table where Robert and I had shared so many years, and then went for a walk in the neighborhood. The neighbors greeted me with that mix of pity and curiosity reserved for recent widows. Aurora, my neighbor of many years, approached me one afternoon while I watered the front plants. "Antonia, dear, is it true Angela went to Europe and left you alone?" "Yes, Aurora. She went with Edward. They have business plans there." "And how will you manage, sweetie? We all know Robert didn't leave much money." If you only knew, I thought. "Don't worry, Aurora. I'll be fine. Do you need anything? I can bring you some food, help with groceries." "You're very kind. But I'm fine, truly." Aurora looked at me with that expression I knew well. It was the same look I had received after the funeral. Pity mixed with a little relief that it wasn't her tragedy. "Well, you know where I am if you need anything." These conversations repeated constantly. The butcher, the baker, the woman at the corner store. Everyone spoke to me with that soft tone used for the unfortunate, and I would nod, smile, and thank them for their concern. But inside, a part of me enjoyed this performance. It was like living a double life. Mr. Peterson called me one Wednesday morning. "Mrs. Brooks, I have good news. I successfully nullified the beach house sale. The buyers were unaware of the fraud, so they got their money back without issue. The house is yours again." "Excellent, Mr. Peterson. And the building where Angela lives?" "That one is more complex. Technically, you've always been the owner through the company, but we need to make administrative changes for you to have direct control. That should take another 2 weeks." "Perfect. Keep me informed." After hanging up, I sat in the kitchen with my coffee and thought about Angela. She had been in Europe for 3 weeks, and I hadn't heard a word. No call, no message, not even a postcard. To her, I had ceased to exist the moment she got the money, but I knew that would change soon. I decided to visit the beach house. I took the bus to the coast, the same route Robert and I had taken countless times. The house was exactly as I remembered, small, cream-colored, with a porch facing the ocean. The new owners had placed potted plants on the steps, but otherwise, it was the same. I sat on the curb across the street and looked at it for an hour. I remembered summer afternoons when Angela was small, running on the beach building sandcastles. Robert grilling fish on the barbecue, while I made salads in the kitchen. Angela bringing friends, then boyfriends, then Edward. All those happy moments she had reduced to a simple transaction. An older gentleman came out and saw me sitting there. He approached curiously. "Are you all right, ma'am?" "Yes, thank you. I'm just remembering. I knew the former owners. Yes, I knew them very well. What a shame what happened. They told us the elderly lady was very ill and needed a quick sale. We thought it was a steal, but the sale wasn't legal. We had to return the house. Did you know them personally?" "No, we handled everything through intermediaries. But they said the daughter was managing everything because the mother couldn't. A sad situation. If you only knew how sad," I thought. "Well, I'm glad you didn't lose your money." "Yes, fortunately, everything worked out. Though now we have to find another house. We really liked this one." I left with a heavy heart. It wasn't just the money that hurt. It was the ease with which Angela had lied about me. She had invented a story about my illness. She had used my supposed weakness to justify her actions. To her, I wasn't a person with feelings, but an obstacle to be removed. That night, I called Mr. Peterson again. "Mr. Peterson, I need your help with something else. I want Robert's truck back, too." "That will be more difficult, Mrs. Brooks. The truck was in your name, but your daughter had power of attorney, allowing her to sell it." "How is that possible?" "Apparently, you signed that power of attorney months ago after your husband's death. Don't you recall?" There it was, the moment Angela had started planning this. I vaguely remembered signing papers she brought, telling me they were for funeral and inheritance arrangements. I had been so confused with grief that I signed without reading. How naive I had been. "I understand, Mr. Peterson. Is there any way to get it back?" "We can try, but it's more complicated. We would need to prove you signed under deception or coercion." "Let's do it. I want to reclaim everything they took from me." Over the next weeks, I developed a strange routine. Mornings, I was the poor widow everyone knew. I went out for necessities, talked to neighbors, kept up appearances. But afternoons, I became a businesswoman. I studied Robert's documents, spoke with Mr. Peterson, planned my next move. I learned about finance I never thought I'd need. I discovered Robert had been even smarter than I imagined. Every investment was carefully calculated. The building where Angela lived, for example, wasn't just profitable from rent. It was in an area rapidly increasing in value. I also discovered Edward, Angela's husband, had massive debt. He had taken loans using their apartment as collateral, not knowing he wasn't the real owner. When the banks discovered this, he would be in serious trouble. Mr. Peterson called one Friday with important news. "Mrs. Brooks, we've finished the paperwork. You now have total control of all your properties. I also recovered Robert's truck." The buyer was an acquaintance, and when I explained the situation, he agreed to return it for a small compensation. "Excellent work, Mr. Peterson. Now, I need your help with one more thing. I want you to send a letter to my daughter." "What kind of letter?" "An eviction notice." Silence on the line. "Mrs. Brooks, are you certain you want to do this?" "Completely certain. She decided I wasn't important in her life. Now she'll discover how important I really am." "I understand. Do you want me to send it to Europe?" "No. I want you to give it to her when she returns. I have a feeling it will be very soon." I wasn't wrong. That same afternoon, Aurora came running to my house with fresh neighborhood news. "Antonia, did you hear Edward is in trouble with the bank? My brother-in-law who works there told me They're investigating loans he took using their apartment as collateral, but it turns out the apartment isn't his. Really? Yes. And apparently, Angela didn't know. They say she'll have to return from Europe to sort out this mess. What a complicated situation. Yes. And the worst part is Edward lied to her about the Europe business. There was no business. He just wanted to escape his debts here. Perfect. Everything was unfolding exactly as I expected. Angela had trusted Edward, sacrificed her relationship with me for him, and now she was learning he wasn't the man she thought. That night, I sat on the porch with tea and looked at the stars. Robert used to say stars were the souls of people who had lived full lives, watching over their families from the sky. If that was true, he was up there, watching his plan unfold perfectly. Thank you, my love, I said to the sky. Thank you for caring for me, even after your death. The next day, Mr. Peterson called early. Mrs. Brooks, news. Your daughter just arrived in the country. She's at the airport alone. Alone? Yes. Apparently, Edward stayed in Europe. Rumors say they had a major fight. I see. Did you send the letter? I'll send it today. She should receive it tomorrow. I hung up and stood in the kitchen, feeling a mix of nerves and anticipation. After weeks of silent planning, the moment for the first real move had arrived. Angela was about to learn her mother was not the helpless victim she believed. Angela arrived at her apartment Tuesday night. I knew because Aurora, who seemed to have informants everywhere, told me the next day. Antonia, your daughter returned last night. I saw her go in with one suitcase, but she looked terrible, pale, with dark circles, like she'd cried the whole flight. Alone, completely alone. And something strange, Antonia, when the doorman asked for keys. She didn't have them. She had to ask the super to let her in with the emergency copy. Interesting. Edward had the keys, meaning he probably decided not to return. Or perhaps Angela discovered something about him and fled. In any case, my daughter was back, and soon she would receive my little welcome gift. Mr. Peterson called that afternoon. Mrs. Brooks, the letter was delivered an hour ago. The doorman confirmed your daughter received it personally. Perfect. How long did we give her? 30 days to vacate, as per legal standards. But Mrs. Brooks, are you sure you want this? She is your daughter. Mr. Peterson, my daughter evicted me from my own home with a 2-minute call. She sold my things without asking. She treated me like garbage. Now she'll learn actions have consequences. I understand. I just wanted to be sure you've considered all implications. I have, Mr. Peterson, all of them. That night, I couldn't sleep. I lay awake imagining Angela's face reading the letter. The initial confusion, then disbelief, then panic. She'd probably think it was a mistake, a scam. But when she called to verify, she'd find it was completely legal. The next day, as if waiting for my call, the phone rang at 8 a.m. It was Angela, her voice desperate. Mom, I need to talk to you urgently. Good morning, honey. How was Europe? Mom, no time for that. I got a strange letter yesterday. It says I have to leave my apartment in 30 days. It must be a mistake, right? Do you know anything? An eviction notice? How strange. From whom? From a company I've never heard of. It's called, wait, let me find it. Robert Investments, Inc. Do you know this company? Robert had used his own name. How poetic. No, honey, I've never heard that name. Are you sure the letter is legitimate? That's what I want to find out. Mom, I need your help. I don't know what to do. Edward left me in Europe. He ran off with another woman, and now I come back to this. I don't understand what's happening." There was the confirmation. Edward had abandoned her, probably when the money ran out or he realized the legal problems at home were serious. Poor Angela. She had sacrificed her family for a worthless man. "I'm so sorry, honey. Where are you now?" "I'm in the apartment, but I don't know for how long." "Mom, can I come see you? I need to I need to talk to someone. I have no one else." The irony was perfect. Now that she was without the man for whom she abandoned me, she remembered she had a mother. "Of course, honey. Come whenever you want. I'm on my way." I hung up and looked in the mirror. I had to be perfect for this performance. I put on my most conservative gray dress, tied my hair in a simple bun, practiced my expression of a worried but resigned mother. When Angela arrived, she would see exactly what she expected: a poor, vulnerable widow abandoned by her daughter. Angela arrived an hour later. When I opened the door, I was shocked at how bad she looked. She had lost weight, had deep circles under her eyes. Her expensive clothes were wrinkled and unkempt. Her eyes were red from crying. "Mom," she said, and for a moment I thought she would hug me. But she stopped, as if suddenly remembering how things ended between us. "Come in, honey. Want some coffee?" "Yes, please." We sat in the kitchen at the same table, where I had read Robert's documents weeks ago. Angela looked small in that chair, lost, just like when she was a child, telling me about school problems. "Mom, I'm so sorry for how I left. I know I treated you badly." "It's in the past, honey." "No, it's not. I treated you horribly. I said awful things, and now—" her voice broke. "Now I have no one." "What happened with Edward?" "He left with a 25-year-old hotel waitress in Paris. It turns out there was never any business in Europe. It was all a lie. He just wanted to escape his debts here and use the money from your house for his adventure." "All the debts?" "Yes, Mom. So many debts. It seems he'd been taking loans for years, using our apartment as collateral. But now I find out he wasn't the owner. How is that possible?" Here was my opportunity. "I don't know, honey. Property matters are complicated. The problem is, now the banks are coming after me for his debts. They say since we were married, I'm responsible too. And on top of that, this eviction notice. Mom, I don't know what to do. I have no money, no job, nowhere to live." She started crying, real tears of genuine desperation. For a moment, my mother's heart softened. I wanted to hug her, console her, tell her everything would be okay. But then I remembered the coldness in her voice at the doctor's office, the ease with which she discarded me, the way she spoke to me as a burden. "Did you talk to a lawyer about the letter?" "I have no money for a lawyer, Mom. We spent everything in Europe. Edward took what little was left when he ran off." "So what will you do?" "I don't know. I thought maybe I could stay with you for a while, just until I find a job and a small place." There was the question I'd been waiting for. After evicting me, after selling my things, after treating me like garbage, she now wanted me to rescue her. She wanted the poor widow she created to save her from her own actions. "Of course, honey, this will always be your home." Angela looked surprised, as if she hadn't expected it to be so easy. "Really, Mom? After everything?" "You are my daughter, Angela. That will never change." She stood, and this time she hugged me. A desperate hug from someone drowning, clinging to the only thing they can find. I hugged back, but not with the unconditional love from before. Now there was calculation in my embrace. Strategy. Thank you, Mom. I promise I'll find a job soon. I won't be a burden. Don't worry about that now. Rest, recover, then we'll see your options. Angela left that afternoon to get things from her apartment. I stayed in the kitchen, thinking how easy it had been. She came to me exactly as planned, broken, desperate, with no options, and best of all, suspecting nothing. To her, I was still the poor, abandoned mother, needing her compassion. But this was only part one of my plan. Having her live with me gave the perfect opportunity for the next phase. I'd let her settle, feel safe, believe she found refuge. Then, when she least expected, I'd teach her the difference between being poor by choice and poor by consequence. That night, I called Mr. Peterson. Mr. Peterson, I need you to do something else. Tell me, Mrs. Brooks. I want you to investigate Edward's debts. I want to know exactly how much he owes to whom and what legal options I have to separate them from my daughter. That will take time, but it's feasible. Perfect. And Mr. Peterson, keep this absolutely secret. No one can know I'm behind this investigation. Of course, Mrs. Brooks. May I ask your final plan? My plan, Mr. Peterson, is simple. I'm going to save my daughter. But first, she must understand what it truly means to hit rock bottom. When I hung up, I poured a glass of the wine Robert saved for special occasions. It had been a long time since I had a special occasion like this. The game had begun, and for the first time in months, I held all the good cards. Angela moved in the next day. She arrived with 2 suitcases and a cardboard box, all that remained of her previous life. I watched her unpack in her old room, the same she slept in as a teenager, and I saw the humiliation in every movement. She had gone from a luxury condo to refuge in her childhood bedroom. Mom, I found this in the apartment, she said, showing me a manila envelope. It was among Edward's things. It has your name. It was another of Robert's envelopes. My heart raced, but I stayed composed. My name? How strange. Yes, look! She showed me the envelope. Indeed, it had my name in Robert's handwriting. But this one was different, smaller, newer. Maybe Edward found it among Dad's things when he died and forgot to give it to me, Angela said. Possibly. May I see it? I opened it in her presence. Inside was a short letter and a small key. The letter said, Antonia, if you're reading this after the main envelope, it means our daughter is in difficulty. This key opens a safety deposit box at the Central Bank downtown branch, number 247. There is something there to help you help her, but use it wisely. With eternal love, Robert. Angela read over my shoulder. A safety deposit box? Dad had a safety deposit box? I had no idea. I didn't either, I lied. Your father never told me about this. Do you think we should see what's in there? I don't know, honey. Maybe better to leave things be. But, Mom, maybe there's something important. Documents or, I don't know, something valuable that can help us. The desperation in her voice was palpable. Angela was clinging to any possibility of a way out, and I'd let her cling a little longer before showing the full reality. Okay, I said after a calculated pause. We can go tomorrow. That night, Angela and I had dinner together for the first time in months. She cooked, trying to be useful, but the food tasted of guilt and desperation. She told me more about Europe, each story worse than the last. Edward lied about everything. Mom, not just the business, but the debts too. I thought he only owed a little, but he owes over $100,000. Worst part, he used my name for some loans without me knowing. How is that possible? He forged my signature. When I married him, I gave him documents for our joint account. I never thought he'd use them for this. Any way to prove you didn't know? I don't know. It's all so complicated. The banks say since we were married, I'm responsible for all his debts anyway. And the divorce? I don't even know where Edward is. He disappeared. His phone is disconnected. No emails. Nothing. Like he vanished? Perfect. Edward had run like the rat he was, leaving Angela to face the consequences alone. In a way, he did me a favor. Now my daughter experienced what I felt when she abandoned me. Betrayal by someone she trusted completely. I'm so sorry, honey. I didn't know it was so bad. I didn't either, Mom. I thought Edward loved me, that we'd build something together. But I was just an easy way for him to get money and documents. Angela cried again. How could I be so stupid? How didn't I see who he really was? It was tempting to say I saw signs from the start, that I tried to warn her Edward never seemed trustworthy. But that would break my facade as a compassionate, vulnerable mother. Love can be blinding sometimes, honey. Don't blame yourself. But, Mom, I didn't just ruin my life. I ruined yours, too. I treated you horribly. I took your house, your truck, your things, all to give to a man who abandoned me. Now, we're two poor women trying to survive because of me. It's in the past, Angela. We'll be okay. No, it's not. Now we're both in trouble because of my mistakes. You lost everything Dad left you, and I lost my marriage and future. We're two poor women trying to survive. If she only knew, I thought, that right now I had more money than she could imagine, that I owned her building, that I could solve all her problems with one call. But it wasn't time yet. The next day, we went to the bank. Angela was nervous, hopeful. I maintained my act as a confused widow who didn't understand finance. The bank employee led us to the safety deposit boxes, verified my ID, opened box 247. Inside were jewels, many jewels, rings, necklaces, bracelets, earrings. I recognized some as heirlooms from Robert's family. Others were new to me. There was a letter explaining each piece's origin and approximate value. Angela gasped. Mom, this must be worth a fortune. You think so? Yes. Look at this emerald, this pearl necklace. Mom, Dad saved a treasure here. According to Robert's letter, the jewels were worth about $200,000. A significant sum, but nothing compared to my other assets. Like finding coins under the sofa when you have millions in the bank. What do we do with this, Mom? I don't know, honey. They're family memories. But, Mom, we could sell some. With this money, you could get your beach house back, and I could pay some of Edward's debts. There it was again. Even finding something valuable, Angela's first thought was to use it for Edward's problems. She hadn't learned yet. Are you sure you want to use your father's inheritance for Edward's debts? What other option do I have, Mom? If I don't pay soon, the banks will foreclose on everything I have. And technically, I own nothing. Everything was in Edward's name. Think carefully, honey. Once you sell these, you can't get them back. I know, but what else can I do? I can't get a job with all these legal claims. No employer will hire someone with so many legal problems. We took the jewels home. Angela spread them on the kitchen table, examining each, calculating which to sell, which to keep. It was painful watching her reduce decades of family history to numbers on a spreadsheet. Mom, I think I can get $180,000 for the jewels, she said one afternoon, counting bills on the table. Less than I hoped, but enough for the most urgent debts. Are you sure you want to do this? I have no choice. If I don't pay soon, they'll seize everything. Even this house could be at risk if they prove I have a legal connection to properties. The irony. Angela worried about losing a house I owned, paying the debts of a man who abandoned her with money from jewels belonging to the man who created the fortune that could save her. How will you decide which debts to pay first? I talked to a free financial advisor at the bank. She said to prioritize debts with real collateral, those that can affect property or lead to immediate foreclosure. Angela had matured so much in these weeks. The woman who sold my things without consulting me now carefully investigated every financial decision. Suffering made her more responsible, but also more fragile. That night, while she organized debt documents, Mr. Peterson called. Mrs. Brooks, I have a full report on Edward's debts. The situation is worse than I thought. How worse? He owes over $200,000 to several banks and private lenders. More concerning, he used falsified documents with your daughter's signature for some loans. That means Angela is legally responsible. It's complicated. If we prove she didn't know, we might get her out of some debts, but it will be long and expensive. How expensive? For a good lawyer specializing in these cases? Probably $50,000. No guarantee of success. I understand. And if she just pays the debts? If she has the money, that's the fastest solution. But I doubt she has access to that amount. Mr. Peterson, prepare all necessary documents to get my daughter out of these debts, but don't tell her yet. You're going to pay Mrs. Brooks? I'll do whatever is necessary to protect my daughter, but this must be handled in a specific way. When I hung up, I found Angela in the living room looking at the jewels with a sad expression. She looked lost, like a child who broke her favorite toy and didn't know how to fix it. What are you thinking, honey? About Dad. About how disappointed he'd be in me if he saw what I did with my life. Your father loved you very much, Angela. He'd understand. No, Mom. He taught me to be responsible, to value family, not to be selfish. And I did the opposite. I abandoned my mother for a liar. I sold family memories for money. I ruined everything he built. For the first time since her return, I heard genuine regret. Not just lamenting consequences, but acknowledging she did something morally wrong. People make mistakes, honey. The important thing is to learn from them. But how do I learn from this, Mom? How do I fix the damage I did? There was the question I'd been waiting for. Angela was finally ready to face the truth about her actions and consequences. But it wasn't yet time for my final card. First, I had to let her hit rock bottom completely. The next few days were crucial. Angela decided to sell most jewels, keeping only my engagement ring from Robert and a small necklace from her grandmother. I watched her prepare to go to jewelry stores, research prices, negotiate with buyers. Painful to watch her reduce family history to transactions, but necessary for her to understand the real weight of her decisions. Mom, I got $180,000 for the jewels, she told me one afternoon, counting bills on the table. Less than I expected, but enough for the most urgent debts. Are you sure you want to do this? I have no choice. If I don't pay soon, they'll foreclose. Even this house could be at risk if they prove I have a legal connection. The irony. Angela worried about losing a house I owned, paying debts of a man who abandoned her with money, from jewels of the man who created the saving fortune. How will you decide which debts to pay first? I talked to a free financial advisor. She said to prioritize debts with real collateral, those that can affect property or lead to foreclosure. Angela had matured. The woman who sold my things now carefully investigated every decision. Suffering made her responsible, but fragile. That night, while she organized documents, Mr. Peterson called. Mrs. Brooks, important news. We located Edward. Where? In Paris, as your daughter suspected. But here's the interesting part. He's trying for French residency through a fake marriage with that young woman. A fake marriage? Yes. The girl needs papers. He needs to stay in Europe without deportation. But most importantly, we found evidence he deliberately falsified your daughter's documents intending to flee. That means Angela can get out of the debts. With this evidence, yes, we can prove fraud and coercion. Your daughter won't have to pay for what Edward did behind her back. Perfect. I had a way to save Angela from all debts legally, without her suspecting I had the money. Mr. Peterson, start the legal process immediately. Don't tell my daughter yet. I want the process completely finished before I tell her. No false hope. Understood. This will take about 3 weeks, maybe a month. Perfect. When I hung up, Angela looked curious. Who was that, Mom? A lady asking about Mrs. Davis, our corner neighbor. Wrong number. Lying had become easy. Each day, I felt more comfortable with this double life. On one hand, the poor, abandoned mother Angela believed. On the other, a wealthy woman silently orchestrating her daughter's salvation and education. Over the next 2 weeks, I watched Angela struggle with decisions she never had to make. How to stretch money for food, negotiate with creditors, look for a job with ruined credit. A cruel but necessary education. Mom, I went to 3 job interviews today, she told me one evening, coming home with swollen feet and a tired face. 2 said they can't hire me because of pending legal problems. The third offered a part-time job cleaning offices at night. Are you going to take it? I have no choice. It pays little, but it's better than nothing, and I can work nights and look for something better days. Seeing my daughter, who lived comfortably for over 40 years, preparing to clean offices at night, broke my heart. But it also filled me with pride. She was finally facing reality without expecting others to solve her problems. Are you sure you can handle so much physical work? I'll have to learn. I can't keep being a burden to you, Mom. It's bad enough you're letting me live here free. This is your home, Angela. No, Mom, this is your home, and I'm here by your generosity. But I won't take advantage forever. One night, while Angela was on her first cleaning shift, Aurora visited. She sat in the kitchen with me, drinking tea, looking at family photos. Antonia, I have to ask, did you know Angela would return like this? What do you mean? When she left, she seemed so sure, so arrogant. She talked about her great life in Europe, Edward's success. Now she's back, completely broken, working a cleaning job, living with you again. Life takes many turns, Aurora. Yes, but there's something else. I've watched Angela these days, and she looks different. Not just sad, but humble, like she learned something important. Aurora was always perceptive. What do you think she learned? I think she learned the value of things she took for granted, like a mother's unconditional love. Perhaps. Antonia, can I tell you something? When Angela left and treated you so badly, many thought you'd never forgive her. But here you are, caring for her again, giving her a home when she has nowhere. She's my daughter, Aurora. Yes, but not every mother would do what you're doing, especially after how you were treated. If Aurora only knew the full truth, that I had the power to solve all Angela's problems, but chose to let her suffer to learn the full lesson. Do you think I'm doing the right thing? I think you're doing what a good mother would do. But I also think Angela needs to fully understand what she lost when she abandoned you. What do you mean? I think she needs to value you, not just as the mother who rescues her, but as the strong woman who built a stable life for 45 years. She needs to respect you, not just need you. Aurora hit the nail on the head. That was exactly my plan's point. I didn't want Angela back out of desperation. I wanted her back from genuine respect and mature love. And how do you think that can happen? I think it's already happening. I've seen her these past days, Antonia. The way she talks to you now is completely different. She's no longer the daughter who orders you or treats you as a burden. Now she's a grown woman, genuinely grateful for a mother like you. That night when Angela returned from work, I saw her arrive, tired, but with new dignity. She earned those few dollars with her own effort, and it meant something. How was your first day? Hard, but not as bad as I thought. The other ladies helped a lot. One, Mrs. Johnson, taught me tricks to clean more efficiently. Mrs. Johnson? Yes, she's 60, cleaned offices for 20 years. She started after her husband left her with 3 small children. She says it's not the job she dreamed of, but it gave her independence and dignity. She sounds wise. She is. She said something that made me think. She said there are 2 types who end up with this job: those who never had opportunities, and those who ruined the opportunities they had. She asked which group I was in. And what did you say? I told the truth, that I had all the opportunities: a loving family, stable home, inheritance, and I ruined it all following a worthless man. What did she say? She laughed and said, "Well, honey, then at least you know why you're here. That puts you a step ahead of most." Angela poured water and sat with me. "Mom, I want you to know something. These past weeks have been the hardest of my life, but also the most important. Why? Because I finally understand what really matters. It's not money. It's not the most luxurious apartment. It's not impressing people. It's having people who genuinely love you, who are there when everything falls apart." Angela, no, let me finish. You have every right to hate me for what I did. I abandoned you when you needed me most. I took everything Dad left you. I treated you like a nuisance. And now, I'm here expecting you to forgive and care for me. I already forgave you, honey. But I haven't forgiven myself, and I won't until I prove I've truly changed, that I've learned from my mistakes. Mr. Peterson called the next morning. "Mrs. Brooks, excellent news. The legal process is almost complete. We can get your daughter out of all Edward's debts." It was time. After weeks of watching Angela struggle, work, and reflect, the moment arrived to show her she was never alone, that someone quietly watched over her. "Mr. Peterson, organize a meeting. It's time for my daughter to know the whole truth." Mr. Peterson arranged the meeting for Friday morning. I told Angela I made an appointment with a lawyer who could help her, legal problems, but didn't explain details. She agreed, though nervous about cost. "Mom, I have no money for a lawyer. I barely cover basics." "Don't worry now, honey. Let's just hear what he says." We arrived on time. Angela, dressed in her best clothes, now a little big on her thinner body. She was nervous, wringing her hands, expecting more bad news. Mr. Peterson greeted us with his professional smile. "Mrs. Brooks, Miss Brooks, thank you for coming." "Thank you for seeing us," Angela replied. "Though I should warn you, my finances are complicated, and I probably can't afford high fees." "That's exactly what we'll discuss," Mr. Peterson said, exchanging a look with me. "But first, review these documents." Mr. Peterson handed Angela a thick folder. She opened and read, her expression changing from confusion to surprise. "I don't understand. These say Edward forged my signature. There's evidence of fraud. I'm not responsible for the debts." "Correct. We've investigated your case the past weeks, found enough evidence to prove you were a victim of identity fraud." "But how? Who paid for this? I have no money for this." Mr. Peterson looked at me. It was my moment. "Angela, there's something I need to tell you." "What, Mom?" I took a deep breath. After weeks of acting, I would finally reveal the truth. "Your father left me more than you knew. Much more." "What do you mean?" "Mr. Peterson, show her the other documents." Mr. Peterson took a second folder, handed it to Angela. This time, property deeds, bank statements, investment certificates, the entire fortune Robert built secretly. Angela read in silence for minutes. Her face showed confusion, disbelief, shock, finally comprehension. "Mom, this says you own the building where I lived." "Yes." "And you have other properties, bank accounts, investments?" "Yes." "This means when I sold the beach house, it was my house, and the sale was fraudulent." "I already got it back." Angela stared at the papers, processing. "How long have you known this?" "Since the day you called from the doctor's office." "You knew all this when I returned from Europe asking for help?" "Yes." "You knew you could solve all my problems when you saw me crying every night?" "Yes." Long, tense silence. Angela closed the folders, looked directly into my eyes. "Why, Mom? Why let me suffer when you could have helped me?" This was the question I waited for weeks. "Because you needed to learn something you couldn't learn any other way." "What?" "You needed to learn the value of what you lost. The value of family, respect, responsibility. When you abandoned me, it wasn't just money you took. It was dignity, love, trust." Angela started crying, but not self-pity tears like before. Tears of deep understanding. "I abandoned you when you needed me most." "Yes." "I treated you like garbage." "Yes." "And you saved me anyway." "Yes, but not how you expected. I didn't save you by giving money so you could repeat mistakes. I saved you by letting you hit rock bottom so you could learn to save yourself." Mr. Peterson discreetly intervened. "Miss Brooks, your mother paid all legal expenses to free you from Edward's debts. She recovered all property sold fraudulently. You are free of legal problems." "And the cleaning job I got?" "You can quit if you want," I said, "but I hope you don't." "Why?" "Because that job teaches you something you never learned when everything was easy. It teaches the value of your own effort, the dignity of honest work, the importance of valuing every dollar earned." Angela wiped tears, looked at me with an expression I hadn't seen in years. Not a daughter needing her mother, but a grown woman respecting another woman. "Do you forgive me, Mom?" "I forgave you long ago, honey. The question is, can you forgive yourself?" "I don't know if I can. I did unforgivable things." "People make mistakes, Angela. The important thing is what we do after we recognize them." Mr. Peterson left us alone for minutes. Angela and I sat in silence, processing everything. "Mom, I want you to know something. Even if you didn't have all this money, even if you were really the poor widow I thought, I would have learned the same lesson. What lesson? That nothing is more valuable than someone who loves you unconditionally. These past weeks, the only thing keeping me sane was knowing I had a home with you, that no matter how much I ruined my life, you were still my mother. That will never change, Angela. I know. But I also know I can never take that love for granted again. I have to earn it every day with respect, gratitude, actions, not just words. We left Mr. Peterson's office with a completely new relationship. No longer mother and daughter united by blood and habit. Two grown women who chose each other after the most difficult test. The following weeks were about rebuilding, but not as Angela expected. Even knowing I had resources to solve all problems, she decided to keep her night cleaning job. "Mom, I need to finish what I started," she told me one afternoon getting ready for work. "I can't just return to a comfortable life as if nothing happened." "Are you sure? You don't have to punish yourself forever." "It's not punishment. It's a way to remember who I was and who I want to be now." I watched her put on her uniform, unthinkable months ago in the luxury condo with Edward. But something was different in her posture. She was no longer the broken woman arriving crying at my door. She was someone who found dignity in honest work. Aurora visited that afternoon, as she had every Friday for months. She became a confidant to both, watching our transformation with fascination. "Antonia, there are strange rumors in the neighborhood." "What rumors?" "People say you're not as poor as we thought. Someone saw Angela leaving a fancy lawyer's office downtown, then paying all her debts at the bank. People talk, Antonia." "Yes, but they also say you got your beach house back and solved all Angela's legal problems. That costs money." "Antonia, Aurora knew me too well to fool long. What do you want to know?" "I want to know if my friend of 40 years lied about her situation." I poured tea, sat across from her. Time to be honest with someone else. "Robert left me more than anyone knew, Aurora. Much more." "How much more?" "Enough that Angela and I never worry about money again." Aurora silent a moment, processing. "And why pretend to be poor all these months?" "Because I needed Angela to learn something she couldn't learn any other way." I told her the whole story, the cruel call, my silent revenge plan, weeks watching her hit bottom, finally the revelation. "Antonia, that is brilliant and terrible." "Terrible?" "Yes, because you let your own daughter suffer when you could have helped immediately. But also brilliant because I understand why. Angela needed to learn the value of what she lost. If you just gave money, she'd learn someone always rescues her from consequences." "Exactly." "But Antonia, didn't it hurt to see her suffer? Every day, every night I saw her cry. Every morning I saw her get up tired and defeated. But I knew if I rescued too soon, she wouldn't learn the full lesson." "And do you think she learned it?" "Look for yourself. Angela knows she has access to enough money to live comfortably, but chose to keep her job. She knows she can move to a better place, but decided to stay here with me. She knows she doesn't have to worry about debts, but uses her own savings to help other women in similar situations." "She's helping other women?" "Yes, she became friends with ladies at work, uses some money earned cleaning to help a coworker with her son's daycare." Aurora smiled. "That's not the Angela who went to Europe." "No, she's not. This Angela understands money is a tool, not a goal. She understands dignity comes from work and respect, not possessions. That night, when Angela returned from work, she found me reading in the living room. Mom, I have to tell you something. Today, Mrs. Johnson asked if I was the daughter of the rich lady from the North Side. What did you say? I said yes, that you have enough money I don't have to work. And you know what she asked next? She asked why I still work. So I explained, I need to prove to myself I can stand on my own feet. And what did she say? She laughed and said, Honey, that's the difference between being rich and acting rich. Your mom taught you how to be truly rich. Mrs. Johnson is very wise. She is. And she made me understand something important. It's not about the money you have, but how you use it and relate to it. Angela sat with me on the sofa. Mom, I want you to know I've made a decision. I'll keep living here with you, but not as a daughter returning to her parents. I want to stay as a grown woman choosing to share her life with her mother. What's the difference? The difference is I'll pay my share of expenses, contribute to house, upkeep, treat this relationship as a partnership between two independent women who love and respect each other. Angela, you don't need to. Yes, I do, Mom. I need our relationship different from before. Before, I was a daughter who took mother's love for granted. Now, I want to be a grown woman who values and cares for the most important relationship in her life. And your job? I'll keep working, but not cleaning offices forever. I want to go back to school, prepare to do something more meaningful. But I want to do it step by step, earning every opportunity. Any idea what you want to study? Yes, social work. These past weeks taught me how many go through difficult situations without support. I want to use our resources to help other women going through what I did. Perfect. Angela not only learned to value what she had, but found a way to use her experience constructively. And Edward? Mr. Peterson told me he was arrested in France for fraudulent marriage. He'll be deported, but honestly, Mom, I don't care. That part of my life is over. You feel no resentment? No. Edward did me a favor without knowing. If he hadn't abandoned and betrayed me, I never would have hit rock bottom. And if I never hit bottom, I never would have learned to truly value what I have. That night, for the first time in months, I went to bed completely at peace. My plan worked perfectly. Angela not only learned the lessons, but emerged stronger, wiser, more compassionate. Robert would have been so proud. 6 months later, our life found a new balance neither could have imagined. Angela finished social work studies with excellent grades. I decided to use some resources to establish a foundation helping women in domestic violence and financial abandonment situations. Mom, the letter from the university arrived, Angela said one morning, entering the kitchen with an envelope. I was accepted into the master's program. I start next semester. But Mom, I want you to know I'll pay with my own savings. I've been saving from my city job. The salary isn't high, but she had learned to live with essentials, value every dollar earned. Are you sure? We can easily afford the masters. I know, but I need to do it on my own. It's part of who I am now. Aurora visited that afternoon, as every Friday. She became our confidant, watching our transformation. Antonia, I have to confess something, she said, pouring a second tea. At first, I thought you were cruel to Angela. And now? Now I think you were the wisest mother I've known. Look at your daughter. Really, look. True, the Angela in the living room studying for exams was completely different from the one who left for Europe. This Angela had serenity from within, confidence based on her own achievements, not possessions. Did you know I saw Angela at the grocery store yesterday, buying vegetables for a family she's helping through her job? She hadn't told me. And when I asked why she used her own money instead of government budget, she said some things can't be measured in official budgets. That night, Angela and I had dinner on the porch, our new tradition. Time to talk about the day, plan the future, enjoy each other's company. Mom, I got a strange letter today, she said, cutting salad. From whom? Edward? My muscles tensed. Edward? He wrote to you? From where? From prison in France. Apparently, sentenced to 2 years for marriage fraud. In the letter, he says he regrets everything and wants my forgiveness. How do you feel? Honestly, I feel nothing. No anger, sadness, desire for revenge. Like that part of my life happened decades ago, not months. Will you write back? No, not because I hate him, but because there's nothing to say. That Angela who married him no longer exists. This Angela has nothing to talk to him about. I was impressed by the maturity in her voice. The woman across from me developed inner strength from hitting bottom and getting up alone. Do you know what this whole experience taught me, Mom? What? That true love isn't what tells you what you want to hear. True love is what teaches you what you need to learn, even when it hurts. A difficult but necessary lesson. Edward told me what I wanted to hear. He made me feel special. He convinced me I deserved luxury without effort. You taught me true wealth comes from hard work, respect, genuine relationships. That night, after Angela went to study, I sat on the porch alone, looking at stars, thinking of Robert. I promised I'd care for our daughter, and I finally felt I fulfilled that promise the right way. I hadn't cared for her by giving money. I cared by teaching her to care for herself. I hadn't saved her by solving problems. I saved by allowing her to learn to solve them alone. The next day was Sunday. We planned to visit the beach house together for the first time since I got it back. Angela hadn't wanted to go before, saying she needed time to process. Ready? I asked as we got into the truck. I think so. The trip was silent but comfortable. When we arrived, Angela stood a moment in the truck, looking at the house of so many family summers. It looks exactly the same, she said finally. Some things don't change, but others do. I'm not the same person who sold this house. We went in together. The house was clean, tidy, exactly as Robert and I kept it. Angela walked through each room, touching furniture, looking at family photos on walls. Mom, I want to apologize. You already did, honey. No, I want to apologize specifically for this house. Not just selling it, but reducing all our family memories to a transaction. It's forgiven. This house represents 40 years of family summers, birthdays, Christmases. Dad built that porch with his hands. You planted that garden. I learned to swim at that beach. And I turned it all into money for a worthless man's adventure. She sat on the sofa where Robert read Sunday mornings. Do you know what hurts most? What? That when I sold it, I felt nothing. It was just property. Now, being here, I feel Dad in every corner. I hear his laughter, smell his coffee, see his reading glasses on the table. He is here, Angela. He always has been. I know, and I know he's proud of how you handled all this. We spent the day at the house cooking together, cleaning, fixing small details, a ritual of reconnection, not just with the place, but the values it represented. When sunset came, we sat on the porch Robert built, looking at the ocean. Mom, I have a proposal. What? I want us to turn this house into a temporary shelter for women leaving domestic violence, a place to stay while rebuilding lives. The perfect proposal. Robert would have loved his beach house, helping other families. I think that's a beautiful idea, honey. We can use foundation resources to maintain it. I can oversee through my job. Are you sure you want our family sanctuary for that, Mom? The best sanctuaries are shared. Dad always said a house isn't truly a home until it opens doors to others needing love. He was right. Robert was always generous with our home, inviting relatives, friends, neighbors needing a place. We returned home that night with a new project and a completely renewed relationship. No longer mother and daughter by obligation or need. Two women who consciously chose to build a life together based on love, respect, common purpose. That night, before sleep, I spoke to Robert in silence. We did it, my love. Our daughter finally understood what truly matters. And for the first time since his death, I felt he answered. I always knew you would. You're both stronger than you think. Justice arrived not as revenge, but education, not as punishment, but transformation. And in the end, we both gained something more valuable than money. An authentic relationship built on a foundation no future crisis could destroy. Did you enjoy my story? And which city are you listening from? Let's connect in the comments. If you liked the story, you can support me by sending a super thanks so I can keep bringing more stories like this. Thank you so much for your sweet support. I'm looking forward to your comments on the story. On the screen, you can see 2 new life stories that I highly recommend. There's so much more on my channel. Don't forget to subscribe. See you in the next life story. With love and respect,